it's Madison,
Ava and Elle.
and this is the 20-something Playbook.
Okay, Madden, can you please tell us about your 25th birthday?
Yeah, so
Fateful day.
I turned 25 last year, and a little backstory, I have a health condition called cystic fibrosis, and it's a life-threatening health condition, and for the past 5 years leading up to this 25th birthday, I was just in pure survival mode. I didn't have the capacity to have a relationship. I barely had the capacity to do work and just like live a normal life. So when I turned 25 and I started this miracle drug, I'd been on it for a couple of years. I felt like, okay, I have the capacity to be a normal 20-year-old.
Yes, you do.
And I was really struggling with where I was at. I felt behind. And I came across this book called The Defining Decade by Dr. Menche. And it was really interesting reading this book because it made me realize that I wasn't behind.
Yeah.
And that the 20s can be the most transformative decade of a person's life.
Yeah.
And it just, there's so many things in there that put to words what I was feeling, what I had gone through at this age, and no one really talks about it. And that kind of started conversations with you guys and our friends. And we realized everyone's going through this decade, this defining decade. Yeah. And when I was a teenager, my idea of being 25, like mom and dad were married with a house, full-time job at 25, so I felt,
Lay it back in your mind.
what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Like, am I doing okay in life? Like, I didn't know. So reading that book really gave me a lot of clarity.
Yeah. And just, we want to get Dr. Menche on this.
Yes.
To talk through the details and try to help you and us kind of figure out.
Figure it out. So we're in this together. I'm 25, Ava and Elle are 22.
We're twins.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're sisters, if you...
We all look exactly the same.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off with being anxious about doing something that you're proud of. I get anxious about doing something that is like the road less traveled. I'm going to be anxious doing anything, so you might as well be proud of the thing that you're doing, even if you're going to be anxious about it.
Yeah, like when you're in your 20s, like you think about the beginning of your 20s, turning 20, like you're supposed to be in university. I think back to when I was 18 and the 18-year-olds we've spoken to, your last year of high school, people are expecting you to choose what you want to do for the rest of your life, which is really hard. And you have to decide, am I going to do school? Am I going to do, what am I going to do? What's the right path? And we don't know what the right path is. And I think another thing that's really scary about the 20s is that everyone's in a different place. Like up into high school, everyone's kind of on the same track. And like I'm 25, we know people who have children. We know who are married.
Yeah.
We have friends who are starting their own business, and we have friends who are working corporate jobs, and everyone is in a different place in their personal life and their professional life. So it's hard to get a gauge on where am I? And am I doing okay? I don't know, because everyone's in a different place.
Also, applying for jobs is hard. Like when you're on LinkedIn, you're applying for jobs
One of our friends,
even if you try to get into a corporate job,
yeah,
it's hard. It's all gonna be hard. So for me, it's so important, and I mean, mom and dad raised us this way, is to do something that you love and are passionate about, because it's gonna be hard either way.
So choosing the road less traveled, just a little context for us, something just so you know.
Yeah.
So we all started in competitive dance, and then through competitive dance, we got agents. Ava and Elle were on a TV show. I was on a TV show.
Playing aliens.
They play aliens, which is really funny.
Just crawl around.
Yeah.
Or insert picture.
And when we were on set, we realized this is something we really love. Storytelling has always been a passion of ours, whether it's dancing or writing or acting or drawing. Storytelling was always our passion, and working on set made us realize, and we're really grateful for that. It really showed us what we wanted to do. So when I was 17, you guys were 13, 14. We decided that we wanted to self-publish a book and turn that into, adapt it into a movie or a TV show. So we kind of started the road less traveled as teenagers, and we decided not to go the university route, which has its own set of stigmas, because I remember we had the serving job last year, and the members will always ask, are you in school? Yeah, are you in school? And you kind of tell them what you're doing. And some are like, wow, that's amazing. Good for you. We're cheering you on. And others, like you had someone who literally was like, go back to school, even if you make it.
Do you know what's funny too is I look back to we wrote a novel first and we self-published it.
So by the time I was 20 and you guys were, I was 16. Oh, no, you're 16. Okay, so I didn't turn 20 yet. So it took us about like 3 years to self-publish this young adult novel with a successful Kickstarter campaign. That was a huge learning curve in and of itself.
Yeah, but what was weird was I was in high school at the time, and in high school, like, that is the last thing you want to do is bring attention to yourself. And I remember Ava and I were like, you know, like abnormal attention. Yeah, like abnormal attention too. And Ava and I, we wrote an entire 400-page novel and didn't tell a soul. Like, we did not tell anyone. Like, no one. I was embarrassed by it, honestly.
We were embarrassed, and it was my life's passion. I was like so embarrassed.
You're embarrassed to tell people.
Because it's like no one's doing that. Like,
I don't, like, especially in high school, like, everyone just, you know, they judge you for everything.
It was embarrassing in a way.
It was.
Again, back to that thing of like, if you care about something, it's gonna be embarrassing.
Yeah.
Because you care.
Yeah.
And we would have to like, because we had a Kickstarter campaign, so we had to reach a certain amount of money to be able to publish the book, or else like we would lose all of the money.
We were raising $15,000. Yeah. So we had 30 days to raise $15,000. If we didn't raise the $15,000, like to the $15,000 mark, we would not get any of the funding. So pressure was on. We had to reach out to everybody being I said to share.
And our parents were like, you guys are gonna have to email your teachers. And Ava and I were like, do we?
I don't know why that at the time that was just like the last thing I wanted to do.
Yeah, it was so. Then I remember in class I emailed one of my teachers and he put up his email on like the monitor.
No.
And I was terrified that he was gonna show the class the email that I sent him, but he didn't, and he never responded to the email. So it was like, whatever, it's fine.
That was interesting too, because some of your teachers were really supportive, and others kind of like it wasn't like your writing class teacher like all of a sudden.
Yeah, there was one that like I never really talked about it at school, but because we like reached out to everyone, some people took it better than others for whatever reason. I don't know why, but I feel like that's part of that, like taking the road less traveled. Some people have this weird, like,
that's what it's hard to deal with people misunderstanding what you're trying to do, or trying to antagonize, which we've also experienced, what you're trying to do, or just not getting it. But it's also hard to not do the thing and that you are so loyal to it. You steer it like, this is what I want to do and I know I can do this. So it just comes with the territory of going your own way, and because you could have let that stop you. Yeah, at any point, I should have been like, oh, I can't take this. I don't want to be negatively perceived. Or
Honestly, if I was too immensely so passionate about it, then I probably would have stopped.
Whenever a good movie or TV show comes out, I get so much anxiety. And that's part of the dream for me. She gets so much anxiety. Is that like regulating my emotions in these situations, especially when shit hits the fan, which it does. We have hit so many roads, like, you know, when we started, you know, after we published.
So let's talk about regulating our emotions.
Yeah,
in these situations.
Yes, because
so it's something. Okay, working as sisters, as siblings, it's not for the faint of heart. Like you're together all the time, and we've been again technically working together.
And you're also
13.
You're also the most brutally honest with your family.
Yeah, like even studying that for this, like I was doing like the mic recordings for A's, just like testing them and everything. And just like the sound of me talking to you guys sounded so aggressive. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, it sounds like incredibly aggressive.
Yeah.
But we have to learn have had to learn how to communicate with each other, because it's impossible to be productive when we're trying to do. So I don't know if we mentioned this, but like the writing we're doing, it's together. Like we are a writing team.
Yeah.
Like everything we do is together. For some reason, I just feel like our brains like work better together. Like it's just like we all kind of cover a different area. And we have had to learn how to communicate. And like at the end of the day too, like our brains work differently. Like you have a completely different way of thinking than we do. And that's affected like when things happen, like when shit hits the fan. Like we recently, like last week, we had producers. We had producers we were working with. We enjoyed working with them, and we love best stories. They really were like our guiding light in such like a crazy.
Yeah, because in this area that we're trying to navigate about an entrepreneurial or even often creative route is you don't have any guide. Like there's no you apply to get the job. There's no like you get the entry level porter shot. You work your way up.
It's not a straight line. It's like up and down.
There's a million different ways you can do it. I don't know which one's the right one.
We've gone on like we've
Well, one of the pivots we had was after we published the young adult novel.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about failure. We submitted, we had a successful Kickstarter campaign, and then we submitted this version of our book to someone we knew who had a really good publisher, and they had a best-selling book on Amazon. And it basically got back to us. It was like, this is so bad. I can't share this with people. You're saying like this, this is not good. It's not sellable. And then we had a conversation with publishers, and they're like, this could be a 10-year timeline. And the whole thing about publishing this young adult novel is that we're actresses as well, and we want to create this story and play the sisters in the story. And we just realized we don't want to wait 10 years or something.
And we also want to dig deep down and be like, yes, we did this novel, but maybe we treat it as a learning experience instead of something that we like have to make another one or have to re-edit this one and make it good enough to publish like out in the world. So, and we had to pivot. Like, we had to have that hard conversation of like, we love this, but is there a different form of this that we need to like pursue instead of this one?
So that was the pivot into screenwriting, which was a huge learning curve. It took us years. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. It took us like years to get the sellable pilot going. We had so much failure. Like, so
calling people hard. We like had to network on LinkedIn. Like,
we're basically self-taught too. Like, it's not like you studied this in school. We at one point we had a professor at UCLA in screenwriting help mentor us, but we didn't get there because we went to UCLA. We got that through like a connection of connection of connection.
Yeah, just like networking. And
yeah, I could also going back to like having humility in these situations, in the sense of like, I feel like whenever we reach out to new people and we want to hear their feedback on something, we always say like, don't be afraid to hurt our feelings.
Okay, literally say that. Some people say, are you okay with feedback? And we're always, like it makes you hurt.
Opposites feel good, but it's like you need it to get better, and you need it to improve whatever you're doing.
And so again, to come back to what we were talking about, is all of these years and phases that we went through. It's been like 3 or 4.
Describe your phase has been 5 years.
And so after maybe 4 years of just like us trudging it out on our own, taking random calls, we also try to move forward, get feedback. Or no, it's okay. I was just gonna say that
the problem with talking over you
me too. It's an epidemic. But like it's like 4 years of like trudging through everything. We finally found these 2 people that we loved working with, and they wanted to stick it out with us, and we still love working with them. But it's like they mentored us for an entire year. We thought like, okay, like we have these people who are going to be with us till the end. And just last week, they called us. They cannot help us anymore. Like, they just do not have the capacity to help us, even though they want to. And that was shit hitting the fan for us. Like, it was like the 2 people that were mentoring us through this very like chaotic time of entrepreneurship, where it's just like you don't know what to do next.
And now it feels like
we're back at. Can you walk us through how you broke down? Tell us about your personality and like how you're and with like you were telling me this the other day, you were talking about how your perfectionistic style. I might know if I'm saying but just explain that so that everyone can understand.
So what goes on in my head, it's a mess. So we can't break it. Yeah, so I read this book called A Perfectionist Guide to Losing Control a couple months ago. And there's 5 different types of perfectionism. The perfectionism I am so lucky to have is one called the intense perfectionist. And basically, it is sort of fun to I is so intense. And the intense perfectionist gets really angry. Like, one of the examples they gave of like people who have intense perfectionism is Steve Jobs, and he was known to have a temper because he was so perfectionist. Like, everything had to be perfect. And God bless Ava and Elle, like that's what I'm like, and I can be really hard to work with.
It feels a little up here.
Yeah, and so it's like not only am I drill sergeanting us to perfection, I am also very emotional about it, and the emotion is anger, which is not a fun emotion to deal with for anybody. And like one of the things that help with intense perfectionism is physical movement, getting out your aggression. At one point last week, I'm not proud to admit, I punched the wall twice.
Yeah, right, literally. So I don't know why your knuckles are.
I'm fine, and the wall's fine. But so what happened was like every single day for the past 2 weeks since we had this conversation, I would wake up. I do like hardline meditations, and I'm fine. Like, I wake up, I never do meditation time, I'm fine. And then, if I'm reaching out to somebody, I'm in research for something would throw me so dramatically and so intensely that I didn't even understand until after the fact that it had happened. Like, I remember at one point, there was one day where I was getting really upset about something that wasn't even relevant. And I said to Ava, I'm sorry, like, I don't even know how I got there. Yeah. I don't even understand.
And I just to paint the picture, and when she punched the wall, Abe and I were in the living room. Maggie was in her room, and we just hear these two like bangs, and we're like, is that what I think it was? Like, did Madeline
are very ceremonial people. We're very.
You're water signs. There's shit. I'm a fire sign. I'm a spicy. You're like the spiciest area.
We could not be more opposite.
we made to kid you with a tidal wave to calm the fire. Like that's what that happened. Like Elle and I are in the living room. Like we've got our breakfast. We've got like our fun drink. This was around dinner time. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, that's like the morning. So this is what happened. I'm gonna give a little backstory. So I started listening to this screenwriting podcast that someone had recommended I listen to. And so I'm like trying to gain insight into, like, remember where we are. We feel like we're on no man's land again. So I was like, listen, read, I taken everything I can to try to find a path forward for us.
Yeah.
So I'm listening, I'm trying to get insight into like what's going on in the industry, how I can move forward. And these guys start talking about something that really makes me mad. I was listening to that and like these are two people who are supposed to be like very esteemed in the industry and like working screenwriters and all this bullshit. So then I start spiraling because I think, is there no space for Is there no space for a script like ours that doesn't have this thing in it that they say is crucial? I am spiraling at this point and I'm just going on a walk to calm down. I'm heated up. I walk in, I slam the door, I go in my room. I have like this little laundry hamper in my closet. It's so stuffed. It starts falling apart and I'm frustrated as anything because that's falling apart. It feels like my life is falling apart. Everything feels like a metaphor. She's like, it's just a metaphor. And I get so mad that I find myself punching the wall of my closet. And then
Wouldn't recommend.
yeah. And so that's kind of like what those 2 weeks were like. And it was either like, so there's anger and then there's sadness. And like there's another day where I broke down crying because I said, even I was like, we are working so hard. We've been doing this for 5 years. When are we going to have something to show for it?
So to explain where she she won't get into it.
I'm not gonna get into it. We have this joke with Maddie where she goes,
But I'm not gonna get into it. It's like she's
sort of taught.
I know. So let's explain the fact that your brain works like that. Mine is like, I hear a problem for a second, I'm like, oh man, that sucks. And then I'm just like, okay, well, like you can't change it, so what are we gonna do now? And then it's take me away to the action. I go to like practical action.
I'd say we're the same in that way.
Elle and I are both kind of the same in that way.
We're identical, so we were once one, so that probably makes sense. Maddie, I'm gonna ask you another question. I know I'm kind of drilling you right now. That's fine. But I feel like a lot of this comes from being a very successful child.
When I got into my 20s, I look back and like, I was
A successful
I
child.
was a very successful child. Things came very easily to me.
She organized an art gallery at the age of 10.
And the art gallery was good. Like, it wasn't like this, she was
Of an
art and
artist.
dry. Like, it looked like Modigliani vibes.
You do say
When I was 7. No, but this is the feedback I've gotten, not just making this up. So that happens, and then like I'm valedictorian. I won a speaking competition when I'm 12. Every year it was like my teachers would say when I was 10, they're like, she's writing at a high school level. She's operating at a high school level. Like it was always like I was like 10 years ahead of myself. So I have this sense in my head that if something's hard, I start to doubt myself and be like, oh, like maybe I shouldn't be doing this if it's not easy, because things came very easy to me as a kid, like in a lot of different areas. Like it's not like it was just one thing I was good at. And I'm not saying it's to be obnoxious. It's just when you grow up with that sense of like,
Everyone's praising you.
yeah, and it's also like it wasn't just like me telling myself that. It was like people would come to my parents and be like, "This child is gifted at this." And I
Not as such.
yeah, I was like, and we all caught up, right? Like, we all.
Yeah.
And here's
No,
the
but
thing.
I think that's why Ava and I, when things are hard,
They're not as
Sure, it is easy because nothing came easy to us. It was like we didn't win anything. We were like I tried to be what's the class president in middle school,
which I would get every year.
and everyone had to put their head down when everyone voted. I peaked. I was the only one that voted for myself. I know.
I would have voted for you.
But like it didn't faze me because I never won anything anyway. It was just like another failure on the board. It was
Where mine was the opposite. Like, I remember even my grandparents coming to one award ceremony I was at, and I cleaned up on the awards. And they were literally like, and I was like 11, and my grandparents to my parents, were like, I'm actually feeling concerned for her because like what's gonna happen when she does and she doesn't. We all told her 20.
And that's what happened last.
So these 20s have been the little shitstorm there.
That might happen with the wall function.
Like I really had a moment where I was like, I think I peaked in middle school. Like I think
She peaked early.
I think that was it. And like even talking about like
It's not automatic.
also like get down, that'd be
okay.
It's about
Tell you every day.
No, even like when we learned how to drive, like I learned how to drive when I was 22, and
That was water.
I failed my first driver's test, and like even our driving instructor, literally my last class before going to get the test was like, Elle's the best driver, Ava's the second best driver, you're the worst driver of the three. I was like, thanks.
Why would he say that to you?
I appreciate that. I know that
comment.
I'm not a good driver. I'm getting better at it. It all balances out. The practical things in life, I'm not good at. I'm just not. So I'm working on it, but it's
I'm gonna bring this back to the point you're trying to say, which is that all of these emotions going on in here make it somewhat difficult to work together because the emotions come from like, oh my god, like whatever she's feeling about like work and her own success, and Elle and I have to kind of like because we need her. Like I can't just be like, oh that's it.
I have a huge.
No, you don't have an ego. So you just are an emotional person. No, which is understandable.
Because you care. Yes, exactly. Well, because sure is.
too much. But
it's important to have the hard conversations of like, okay, instead of me just being like, okay, I can't deal with this, like you go somewhere.
I don't
we're out the door together.
You might run away and be like, I don't want to just deal with it.
No, instead of like, what are you trying to say to me? You get to the bottom of it. Yeah, like what are you trying to say to me? Is this feelings that like, is this emotions or is this like something that we actually need to talk about like for work? Like, is this something that's going to be
Another question you like to ask ourselves is this going to be a productive conversation? Do we want to vent or do we want to get?
and what was sorry about last week for me on my end was that after 2 weeks of turmoil, I came back to my book on perfectionism that I read a couple of months ago, and one of the things that stood out to me was this technique called explain and express. So for me, in the past 2 weeks, I was so caught up in the emotion of it. Like I just remember saying that I feel scared, I feel confused.
I was like, I'm scared too. Wait.
What's happening where every day I'd be thrown off by something. And what I read was that if you share what happened and how you felt about it, you actually gain insight from the experience. Because I was like every day living the same day, I wasn't gaining any insight. So when I read that, I tell myself, I explain and express it in my own head, where I tell myself, when I read this article, I feel scared. And as soon as I do that, I actually calm down on the inside. And I feel like you guys have noticed the difference. I actually haven't.
no managing this week?
No, like I haven't had any breakdowns, and I'm grateful for that. And just so you know, I was trying to regulate myself this week. It's not like I was like, whatever, come on,
raging like
I was trying. I was reading stuff. I was just trying to reaffirm.
I remember being like Maddie, like really hard. I said I was like Maddie, like what's going on? She was like, I don't know.
At one point, I was like, am I depressed? Like I don't know. Like, is this a mental health issue?
Do I need to therapy?
Do I need to take? Yeah, like do I need to take some? That's a great segue. Let's talk about mental health.
Let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about choosing your heart for mental health. Because, man, you have often said to us, well, like we talk about this a lot. We work with a mental health nonprofit called Team.
Teaching everyone about mental
At myteam.social on Instagram. And we often talk about how not going to therapy is hard and going to therapy is hard. And you have to choose your heart. And Matt, you always saying that you chose the heart going to therapy because you knew that you could get out on the other side. You just want to ignore it. So would you like to talk about your experience?
Yeah, I think so. The health condition I had was very severe. Like people are not supposed to live past 18 years old, and I was in my 20s. So I was suffering a lot with this health condition to the point it was taking over my life. And I had complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which is really scary because I would feel really dissociated from my body. I didn't feel connected to the present moment.
Yeah.
And I was constantly just fighting. Like I had really severe depression. Like,
well, I remember you saying where to me, and this was, it started back, I think Ava and I were 16 turning 17 and Maddie was, I think 19 at the time.
Yeah.
Or 19 turning 20. And I remember you saying to me once, you're like, I just don't feel safe. And I remember being like, what do you mean? Like, we're in my home, like, you're safe, you're in your room, like, like you are safe. Yeah. And that goes back to, but she didn't feel safe
in my body. I felt like I was dying on the inside, which was partly true. So it was terrifying. I would get x-rays from doctors showing my lung function, like my lungs was scarring, and then my lung function would go down, and I'd cough up blood, and I'd start running and I was very physically active, but I noticed that I couldn't perform at the level I wanted, and it was really scary. Like even just talking about it, I can feel my body feeling like my bum reaction. So I had a choice at that point, which was to either just trudge on as I had been my entire life. I'd have panic attacks at movie theaters, at family events, at functions. I just couldn't. I couldn't
found a choice taking either passengers or grains of the gas.
So to be fair, we were very close to the school.
And people were, and there was like people who were dying. Any death stuff really triggered me. Understandably. So, and I'd wake up with panic attacks. Anyway, it was a rough time. So it was basically, do I keep going on like that, or do I do something about it?
Yeah.
And therapy is really hard. Like I think of it like we talk about like weight training or exercising. Exercising, yeah, you get stronger in the long run. That's really good for your health. When you're doing it, it's painful and it's really hard. It took me years to get through it. And as I was going through it, whenever things got hard, I just would remind myself of the paths that you can choose. Like, this is hard.
Yeah.
So is not taking care of my mental health. So I just have to choose my heart. It's going to be hard either way.
So is having panic attacks in theaters.
Exactly. So it's going to be hard either way. You just have to choose. And that was the choice.
We've had these conversations many times. That's why we joke about it, because it's gotten to the point.
They're not being insensitive.
Yeah.
But just
Let's come on right away.
Yeah.
There's points like she has been through so many phases and stages of her health. There was a point where she was 88 pounds and Elle and I had to carry her out of the chapters.
Yeah.
Which is it's a bookstore in Canada, and she like couldn't walk. Like she suddenly in chapters like collapsed and could not get to the car. And Elle was used to it at that point. Like it's like the chapters workers are like, oh, like they look terrified. They're like opening the door, and I was like, thank you so much for like carrying her out of chapters. It's just like we're very used to having these conversations.
And we've also talked about it a lot since it happened, and that's why we can talk about it like this. It's also, I think, and I'm thinking because she's
yeah, when I started, luckily there's a drug called Trikafta that became available, which basically, because since the health condition I have is genetic, it's gene related. It's cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis, if I haven't said that already. And so the drug modifies the genes, which makes my body operate normally, which was that's a whole other conversation to get into what that was like. Yeah, and getting out of survival mode. And it was interesting because I think all of us, we didn't really come to terms with what we went through until I was better and on this medication. And I came to terms with the fact that I could have had an early death, and I grieved a lot, and I faced my own feelings around all of that I didn't have the capacity to deal with at that time, because when I was dealing with it and I wasn't on this drug, I was kind of in denial, and I was like, I will get better and everything ought to be okay.
And from the support angle, like anyone who's supporting someone through their health issues or mental health issues, it's a different kind of hard. It's like you feel for the person. You don't always know what's going on inside their head. You don't always know what they're feeling. And you feel normal, and yet you don't.
Because you love them.
Exactly. Like it's because you care that you're almost not working at full capacity.
I think going through moments like that, or just tough moments in your life, makes you, we call like you have less BS. You become less, and I've noticed this with a lot of people, because you kind of understand the importance of life and how important it is to spend it with the right people, and how, like, if there's people who don't make you feel good, or maybe you realize they don't want the best for you, etc., don't waste your time.
Yeah.
And I think this most kind of experiences,
and this might sound cutthroat to some people, but I just think when you go through something like this, you realize like how short life is and how much you need to like protect your energy.
That's a hard decision too.
Yeah, and it's a hard decision because these people that are making you feel this way aren't necessarily bad people. And I don't wish these people harm. Like I genuinely want them to live happy, successful lives. It's just that thing of like being conscious of your energy and how other people are making you feel. Yeah. And being okay with like maybe distancing yourself.
I also think, as you enter your 20s, like this past summer had almost 3 jobs, and I did not have time to hang out or see or catch up with people who I didn't like absolutely love. It sounds so bad, but
it's like about saving your time and energy. Like that's a hard decision, and some people aren't going to take it well. And then Also has the fun. It's not like it's like, oh yay, I'm gonna distance myself.
And as a recovering people pleaser, it's something I fight all the time. Like even sending emails, I'm like, I just want to put the end like, I'm so sorry. And I remember my mom having this conversation with us. You have to build that muscle to like be okay with not pleasing everyone. You have to kind of start that early. Otherwise, it's just going to get harder as you get older. Life gets busier and you don't want to, spread yourself too thin and, start trying to mend relationships or you take care of relationships that aren't actually worth.
A segue into it's hard not to be in a relationship and it's also hard to be in the wrong relationship. And we talk about this a lot.
I consider myself a very independent person and I have a lot of really great, you're talking about something car the way here.
Yeah.
With our video. Wait, with our video. Adriana. And we were talking about how we have such great friendships.
And that's a healthy thing to do.
And I think that's why we don't necessarily like crave or I don't got me like I'm not like I need a relationship now. And I think that could be why. I mean, if anyone has those things and they still like that's fine.
What's interesting is when I was in my teens, I had a really hard time. Like I had my dance friends and they were amazing. And then everyone kind of leaves dance and is in a different space. And I had a really hard time finding my group of friends. Like, I remember having a moment where being like, I guess I'm just like a loner. Like, I guess I'm just not going to have any friends. And the thing is like, I'd rather be alone than be with people that don't resonate with me, that you don't connect with. Because the people I was around at the time, I felt invisible in a room full of people. I felt so isolated and alone, and I could be in a room of 20 people with 20, and just, it was a hard time. And it's so interesting because once I made that decision, a year later, I met some amazing friends and like who have now connected me to like a bunch of other amazing friends. And I'm so grateful that I have that. It's so important to cultivate those great relationships in your 20s because then I don't feel desperate for friends. I don't feel like the next person I meet has to be my best friend. And I think the same goes for dating. I think, I'm in that place of dating in my life where I'm, where I was before I met my good friends, being like, I don't know when I'm going to meet the right person. And I'd rather be alone than be with somebody because I just don't want to be alone. Like, yeah, it's like trading what's good for what's right. Like that Olivia Rodrigo. Yeah, like it's so true. Like it's such a good, I was listening to it the other day. I've been on Hinge and I've been on dating apps and I'm not, again, we're all long-term dating kind of people. And sometimes it's not that the person's an asshole or they're a bad person. It's just like there's just not a connection. And you just have to trust your gut with that instead of being like, oh, on paper, this person is perfect and we make sense. Because even with my friends, the friends I have now, I couldn't even foreseen how amazing these people are and how much they bring to my life. It's a really beautiful thing. So in my opinion, it's worth it to be alone. And you know what? There's a positive side to being alone, and it's going to be about yourself. I think I was on a dating app for 6 months, and then I got to a point where I was like, you know what? Because I also like went full out.
She does everything.
I was trying to like go to like discos and go out of town and like go like where would I meet a guy? Where would and I was thinking.
Although I thought you would meet a guy in a disco.
I didn't think I'd meet a guy at the disco.
She was trying to get Ava and I to go too, and Ava and I are like homebodies. Like I'm like past.
I would have like elbow my girlfriend.
Couch a flattened Canada's couch, hockey games, not couch o'clock.
So that was interesting because I was like in my social era, and I'm an introvert, so like I am really pushing myself to get out there. I'd like try to approach guys on like I remember once there's a guy who had like headphones on, and I thought he was kind of cute. He was in the no talk section. We got back from a concert. I was like, excuse me. Like, I was trying to like low key get his attention, but he just ignored me. And then that was a moment where I was like, what are you doing? Like it got to a point where I realized, what am I looking for in these relationships? I got to give that to myself.
I was going to say something as well, if that's okay. Yeah. It's just that I also think pursuing passions outside of like relationships, whether that be romantic or platonic, pursuing passions outside of that is so important because you can almost get like fulfillment and connection from things that you're passionate about. Like they make you feel good. They make you feel proud of things. And I just think that that's something that we've always been very lucky. We're very lucky that our parents let us pursue our passions and aren't forcing us to do something we don't want to do, even if it's hard and they have to watch us go through difficult things. But again, choose your hard. We chose the difficult path of doing something you're passionate about that isn't necessarily gonna work right away.
Our father had to watch us go through a business disagreement recently, and he was saying he was like, it was so hard not to get involved. And I asked them not to get involved because I'm like, we have a way of communicating and we're very nicely and we are very healthy. And it's taken us a while to get, I mean, I guess we still
Almost 10 years now, but yeah.
we still, and it's not about not having arguments. It's about dealing with them effectively.
So yeah, it's hard to have again, choose your heart. It's hard to have hard conversations and difficult conversations. It's also hard not to.
It'd be right to just like not express how you're feeling. And we always say too, like between all of us, we always have an open mind with each other, and I feel very lucky for that. We want to listen to each other. For this to be the best that it can be, we have to, again, have humility and listen to each other. And I always say too, if you guys like say something that you want and I don't agree with it, I would say, let me sleep on it. I'm okay if I'm wrong. It's okay if I'm wrong. I don't agree with you right now, but maybe I will tomorrow. And there's been a lot of times where I do wake up in the morning and I'm like, you guys are right. Like, we're just keeping it but choosing humility over your ego is, again, very hard in the moment.
But it makes you feel that shit. Like last week when I'm like apologizing to Ava and Elle for having the freak out, like that makes me feel like crap about myself. But I feel more like crap if I don't take accountability for what
It also allows you to have a clean slate moving forward. Like it's like there's not like a pile up of things that we had to discuss.
So just with, we're having this conversation with our friend Audrey about relationships, and I think it's just really healthy to not wait for a partner to live your life. Like, do the things you want to do that you imagine doing with a partner. If you want to go on a hike, go on a hike. Go with your friend, go with your parent, go with your dog. Like, just do the thing. Like, I realized that. I was like, I'm going to go to the disco. I'm not going to wait for a partner to go out and go to the disco with my friends. Start living your life now instead of waiting for some change outside of you, because you're within your control and you're going to eventually meet this person and not much is actually going to change about your life. Like, it's actually healthy.
And so to recap everything we've kind of discussed today, we don't know much. We are still only 22, 25. This is our experience up until this point. The goal of this is to get guests on that can help guide us.
Can answer the hard questions. One of the questions I read, there's a video I saw on TikTok talking about questions that they actually asked 20-year-olds. What are they actually asking themselves? And one of the ones I'd love an answer to is love. You'll find love when you stop searching for it. I don't know the answer to that.
We don't think it's
like
true.
a Grace Abrams song, Packing It Up.
Yeah.
It's like I packed it up, and it's like I swear that.
Yeah.
And that's just when you happen.
No, but here's the thing. I packed it up like a year ago, and I still haven't met somebody. But that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And I'm not. I think okay, to answer that question,
She won't get into it.
but I think that you find yourself. Self-love. So you don't love yourself. It doesn't matter who loves you. I love me. No, I know, but it's like, it's important to love yourself. You will find yourself, and that's really important.
Well, sometimes I'll literally ask that of you because you were. I thought you were yourself sometimes. I'm like, you just love yourself.
And I've gotten so much better.
Straight, I'll get aggressive, but I've gotten so much better. So now I'm like, so now, okay. We will now segue into our final segment, which is just a few questions called 20s nonsense, and we will ask each other a few silly questions. I'm gonna start. Madison, Faith.
Yeah.
How many times have you cried this week?
I am proud to say 0.
What?
Yes.
Really? Not even in your room?
No. And
Or that.
No, you cried either.
Last week I cried every day. There's one day I cried twice. I cried once on the couch
That's
talking to you guys, and then I cried in the shower, and then that turned into panic attack. Then I was learning tapping. Please shower crying. She's this daily one. I'm not calming down times, and then that made me panic, so I had to put my hand in really cold water. Calming down.
We were watching Lost the other day, the show that's been out since 2010 that we haven't seen it yet.
I cried.
And she's sitting there, we're all watching Lost, and I just hear this.
And I look over, and she's like, okay, so Laura, what's wrong? Lost can be triggering because she's like survival stuff. When I've ever seen a survival, she's like, I'm like, it's a PG show. What are you talking about? I feel scared, but I also like prayer in the face. The parent guide is like mild gore, mild
Smoking. Yeah, I'm like, okay, Maddie can watch this. She's like,
wait, on. Well, girls wouldn't catch her breath. She said, hey.
She also was like, my ears.
She
Because my ears feel really full. Because I think it's because the sun wasn't out yesterday. I can't. She blames this. She blames things on the no ball. And my has a headache, and then I'm stiff here, and then she's like, I coughed today. I think it's the banana I ate yesterday. She blames everything on either what she ate or the weather. Like if the sun's not out, it's that fault. If she ate something she usually eat, like there's a while she blamed everything on bananas. Yes, everything. I don't know what bananas are fun. Like just relax in the banana bag. Ava, answer question.
Oh, how many times did you stress bake this week?
Me? Yeah, once. It was just once. I made brownie cookies. Anyone who knows me well knows that these brownie cookies are a staple. They're great. Our friend, our Elle and I's best friend, lives just down the street. Every single time I go to her house for dinner, I bring these cookies. It's a staple. And whenever I'm upset, I just get the eggs and whisk it in there. That's my, I like calm things. She's a stress bake. I'm a stress bake. Betty. And Betty. I have a recipe book that says recipes by Betty. But yes. Is it? I love it. She stress bakes. It benefits all of us. Elle sits on the couch and says, Ava, when are you gonna bake something? And then she just sits on. You think you're gonna make something, and then just go for it. And she asks like, why are you really? But like
The chocolate muffins you make, I want you to make those more often.
okay.
I always put in a request, but you do it usually. I'm not trying to figure that out, but I don't like your cooking as much as the muffin.
And I don't like the muffins as much as the cookies. And who's in charge?
Have the hard conversation.
Who's the stress baker? She comes. Yeah, she can choose. So you can choose which bake fits you.
Okay. Oh, this is me to you. How many hypochondriac dog moments did you have this week?
How many?
Hey, we gotta tell them though, like, we have a dog.
He's almost 2 years old.
Yeah, and he got our Top Gun Maverick. His name is Top Gun Maverick.
I don't know how he's there. He wasn't even my choice, and even picked, like, my dad was the one who wanted a dog. Somehow I became his.
But it was on their vision board after our first dog, Hershey, passed away.
We don't want to talk about it.
Ava and Elle dog. It was really hard. Ava and Elle, that's grief. Ava and Elle.
Only silence for Hershey.
Yeah, no, seriously. He slept in my bed for the last 6 months. So like that was a whole thing. But Ava and Elle have
Never get into it.
Yeah. Ava and Elle had on their vision boards to be dog moms in their 20s.
No, she wanted more cuddles with dogs.
Yes.
But my goal is not to be a dog mom. That's just that.
I like you talking about it. No, that was beside the point. He's here now, and he's our life.
And he's Ava and Elle's child, but he's my brother.
I think I did have one yesterday, but that's just because we're going away and we're gonna leave him for a bit. So I think that's why I had I've been pretty good with the
what habit it, Grandma?
Well, we're leaving him for a bit, and okay, we do have to get his flea and tick. Right. Yeah, here we are. So we have to get that. It's every 3 months, and there's like a mild winter. Yeah, I could go on for dog mom moments for a while.
It's also
to stop right
Elle is like,
he's also got a sensitive stomach. He's constantly diarrhea. He has my attention.
Yeah, he does. He needs to be walked 3 times a day. He needs very attentive care. He needs reassurance. He got a bunch of snow last night, and I had to take him on a very quick walk this morning for his little pee and poo for the morning. And he saw my dad from down the street, and he just bolted. And I was like in my nice little outfit, and I had my makeup on and everything. And I was like, the snow on my jeans was like up to my thighs.
yes, I came in through this.
So I came in like snow everywhere. Yeah, but I went inside and just shook off my pants, and they were
shook it off.
Gap jeans are waterproof. Anyway, I had a few. But honestly, this week I haven't been that bad with my habit.
You do a really good job.
We usually like feel like cat because he eats hair.
He also has like random. He also had like some random seizures, which scared us, which weren't seizures, but we were confused.
I don't want to know if anyone is gonna comment about this. I don't want to know about the seizures. We're just claiming him healthy. We're deeming him fine.
And we're not neglectful either. Like Elle went down a whole rabbit hole for days.
He doesn't in the bed.
Yeah, he's fine.
I'm fine. I've been pretty good this week. Yeah. Look at us. We've had a healthy week.
What did we fail at this week? It can be big or small. And what did we learn from it, if anything?
I mean, that wasn't this week, but I had that job interview about like a week and a half ago. Yeah. It didn't feel like that went very well. I think what I learned from it is I should have caffeine before. If I'm being honest. A great lesson still. It's a great lesson for all. I wasn't feeling well that day, and everything just follows on the same day on time. But I wasn't feeling well, and I decided to take an hour nap beforehand. I did, but then I didn't do anything after. Like I should have had Cappy because my brain was not at full capacity. Does that count?
Okay, and you want to say? How did I fail it? I did. Rachel was like, I know something you failed at. You should, honestly. If I'm dying blanking.
I mean, we failed at setting up those other mics.
I did. Elle, I spent an entire day.
You know what? You didn't fail the mics failed you.
They did. They didn't even connect to the computer. They just didn't work. So I failed at that.
The reason we have this question is just because this was inspired by Sarah Blakely, who I follow a lot. And one of the things she talked about was how she normalized failure. Her dad would ask them every day at the dinner table, what did you fail at? Because we want to break the stigma around failure. And I mean, being in your 20s, like, it's constant failure, and it's supposed to be. We were reading a post by Stephen Bartlett, and I love following him on LinkedIn. And one of the things he talked about was how important it is to have failure, because that's the only way you're going to learn. And that's what I'm learning as a recovering child prodigy, is that failure is actually good, and that's how you can learn things. Like, that's, and it's in,
Well, it's everything we've learned until this point in our joint career is through failure. It's all been someone says the script isn't good for this reason, so we fix it. And then someone says that, oh, you next time you're on a call, don't say this instead. Or we go on a call, nothing comes of it. What could we have done differently? So it's all the failures that have got us here today.
Yeah, we've really had that really hard week. I'm very, again, part of my perfectionism is that I'm very results oriented. So if I don't get the result I want, I feel like I'm a failure and it was a waste of time.
I don't get to float through life.
Well, it's just, I think I'm learning, like the reframe for me is that I was reflecting on the past 10 years, the past however many years we've been doing this together. And because it felt like we failed, right? I was like, oh my God, all of this for nothing. We didn't get the result we wanted. And we're still working on this, by the way. It's not like we gave up doing it. It's just, yeah, again, it's a pivot. It's another pivot. And one of the things that helped me was thinking about what have I learned in the past 10 years? Like, what did I learn each year on this journey? And when I think about that, I feel so proud of myself and confident and like I've actually gained something from the experience.
We're better people in our project.
And our skill set has improved.
Yeah, and our skill set is in a better place.
Yeah.
Now than ever. And I just feel like as we continue to fail, it's
about
get us to the success that we want.
It's about what you're learning. Like, I feel like we talk about this too with social media. It's so easy to feel like a failure. But it's important to remember this is someone's highlight reel, and everyone has different circumstances. You can find like 20 people our age who are doing amazing work, and it can make, especially me, feel like a failure. Like when I was 17, my dream was to be a millionaire by 19 and be on the Forbes 30 under 30 list, right? Like, very ambitious. I respect the ambition, but it's just like,
Respect yourself.
and maybe, again, focusing on results, like you feel like shit. But then if I think about how much I've grown as a person, how much I've learned
in this.
yeah, sorry. But how much I've learned and grown as a person, that is invaluable. Because also, like, if you take everything you have away, what you have left is what you've learned and how you for sure become the person.
I'm a big believer. Just say I'm important. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
I would not take back any experience I ever had. I feel like everything that has happened has made me the person I am.
It's like what Dad says, which is like a great mantra for me, and I think we've all talked about this, is it's not about what you have, it's about who you are becoming.
Yeah.
And I didn't say what I feel about this week. I feel like I said enough. But
I think she's right. So we don't need to manage anything else.
I think I've really said all the things I failed at. Like, I think another thing I want to add to it is just like working out as much as I'd like to this week. But I just learned that I need to work out at certain times because I tried to work out at 12 o'clock and I felt exhausted.
She jumps on a trampoline too in the middle of the
I do a rebounder. That helps.
A rebound.
Adding drainage.
It sounds cool. It's just a tiny little baby
It
trail.
looks terrible. But I don't think it's sounded cooler. But
She looks like done on it.
with their hands. Unlike the noodles you see. But well, this is there.
It's been fun. That concludes the first chapter of the 20-something playbook.
If you have any questions, if you have any questions, it's gonna be a bit. If you have any questions about navigating your 20s, please comment below or go to our Instagram, 20-something playbook.
Thank you for joining us. And if you like this conversation, please like, share, and subscribe. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Toodles.
Toodles.